Legion, and welcome to my channel. My name is Ludi, and today we're going to do our EU4 1.30 starting moves guide for the nation of Ashikaga. In this guide we'll be going over the estates and economy, diplomacy and shogunate mechanics, missions, early wars, as well as the later expansion and ideas that you should go for. If we get this video to 1,000 likes, then we'll be doing a giveaway for an EU4 DLC. Some of the achievements that you can get as Ashikaga include cherry picking, where you need to conscript a 3-star general from a daimyo subject, made in Japan, where you have to embrace manufactories institution as Japan before 1655, and Sakoku law, where you need to go full isolationist in 6 incidents. When discussing the estates, the first thing you want to do is summon the diet and go for whichever agenda best suits you, followed up by seizure of land that will get you an extra 5% crownlands, thus getting rid of the negative modifier that we start off with. The privileges that we'll be giving to the clergy are the oversight by the clergy. For the merchants guild, we'll be giving the free enterprises, monopoly on textiles, and the private trade fleet, and for the bushi, the supremacy over the crown, as well as the strong duchies, which give us liberty, desire, and subjects minus 10% and diplo relation slots plus 2. That means that we actually can have up to 6 diplo relations. Trade wise, we start off in the Nippon trade node, and you want to send one of your starting merchants into this trade node to collect, so you can get a bit of an extra boost to this node. The other merchant will be sending into the Jiren trade node and transfer trade from there into the Nippon one whenever we actually can get to the Jiren trade node. As you can tell, we have quite a few vassals, and our vassals are contributing to our own economy, which is great. That being said, we don't really have that big of an economy, but this will improve considerably in the near future. Later down the line, a couple of the provinces in Japan are going to turn into gold mines, such as the province of Iwami and one more province in this area as well, and that will help you out so much in the mid game. But until that point, we will start by getting money from our daimyos and from some very delicate wars that we'll be doing at the very start. When it comes to your rivals, you have literally one option, and that is the big nation of Ming. This is simply because despite you being a 2-province minor nation, you actually are a major power, since all of these other nations here are technically your vassals, even though they have the ability of fighting amongst each other. This is because daimyo is a special type of vassal which doesn't count towards your diplo relations, so you can have as many daimyos as you want. So if you want to, you actually can exploit this big time. You can turn many other nations into daimyos. So for example, you can turn all of these nations here without actually using up any of your diplo relation slots, and you can do the same to the rest of the world, and that can be super OP. Now the problem is daimyos actually can fight each other, and they will fight each other since they get a special CB against one another once they border each other. So you have to make sure that all of your daimyos are going to be kept in check and that they don't go over the liberty desire mark, otherwise they will try to declare independence and claim the shogunate, meaning take over Kyoto from you. You have a couple of interactions you can do with them. First off, you can ask them to enable divert trade, which is going to give you a bit of their trade in the trade node that you have as well with them. Ask them to embargo rivals, as well as you can block their settlement growth, which I don't recommend because you want them to actually develop their provinces. You can also contribute to the capital, which means that they lose 2 development and you gain 1 in Kyoto, or whichever one is your capital. You can conscript generals whenever they have a good general. Ask them to change isolationist policy for seppuku, and it would give us 5 times the new ruler's monarch skill and monarch power. This is available literally only after they've declared wars, so at the start you gotta wait for a couple of years before you can interact with this. You can also pay off debt to decrease their liberty desire, grant cores, claims, and provinces, regular stuff for vassals, and knowledge share. You can also return land. That means they have to return land to whoever they took it from. So for example, if they took land from Harima like Yamana did, they have to return it, but it is going to increase their liberty desire considerably, so be extra careful whenever you use this interaction. One thing I recommend from the start that you do is whenever you see a nation that has below 20% liberty desire, such as Takeda, ask them to divert trade towards you. This will boost your trade quite a lot, but be very careful and remember that you need to constantly improve relations with all of your vassals here. So one of the most important tasks you will have throughout this game is going to be to actually improve relations with the vassals. You can either do it automatically from here if you have the Mandate of Heaven DLC and you just automatically assign diplomats to do it, or you can do it manually based on whichever nation you have the priority for. When it comes to actual alliances, you will be able to ally Ainu, and that is going to be pretty much it. Sometimes you might also be able to ally some nations in the Manchu area. I actually recommend that you improve relations with Korchin, and I recommend that you diplomatically vassalize the nation of Ainu. It is quite easy to do. They even accept doing it from the very beginning, so send them an alliance request and afterwards simply improve relations. Once you have 190, you can just diplo vassalize them. Also take note that you actually start off with a regency council vassal, which is a 111, and your heir is going to be a 231, but these things will start changing soon enough. As the shogunate, which is a special government type, you have 3 interactions you can do with your vassals. First off, you can get manpower and land force limit for 10 years based on the amount of daimyos that you have, and their own manpower and land force limit is going to decrease. You can also ask for diplo relations, and it will decrease your daimyo's diplo relations, or you can simply lower their liberty desire by 5%. Each one of these interactions is going to cost you 20 legitimacy, so use them wisely. The Ashikaga mission tree is actually the same mission tree that you have as any of the Japanese daimyos and Japan itself after you formed it. The mission tree itself is divided in 3 parts. The first part basically focuses on the development of the Japanese daimyos and shogunate at the very start, as well as the pacification of the north, which is basically the Ainu tribes here. After you've turned all of the Ainu provinces into Shinto provinces, you're gonna get the province of Kurils for free. You don't need to colonize it. It's gonna be your culture, your religion, you just need to core it up. Taking the Kurils, you're gonna get settler chance and global settler increase plus 25, as well as permanent claims on the Kamchatkan areas. Having 90% of your naval force limit and 5 heavy ships gives you another boost to your navy tradition, and growing by at least 2 states is gonna give you your first Sengoku contender, which gives prestige and legitimacy. Later on, you're gonna get some claims outside of Japan first off, and if you follow these claims, you're gonna get more claims on the Manchu area. After taking over Manchu, you're gonna get more claims on the Chinese area, with eventual claims on the South China and the Vietnam Ayutthaya part, as well as after colonizing the island of Taiwan and taking over Okinawa, namely Ryukyu, you're gonna get claims on Hawaii, Wake, and Midway Islands, as well as the Fujian and Zhejiang areas, namely in Ming. Aside from the claims, you also get some permanent modifiers, namely the domination of the markets is gonna give you +1 merchants until the end of the game. For this, you need to dominate the markets around the starting position. Regulate the social order is also gonna give you +10 max absolutism and -10 stab cost, and the Sankin Kotai is gonna give you diplo relations +1 until the end of the game. You also get temporary boosts such as the friendly movement speed for pretty much all of Japan for 20 years, production efficiency for 20 years as well, and you also get 100 admin, 5 mechanism, and 3 base production in Kyoto once you've gotten 12 manufactories within Japan. Having 40% army tradition gives you 1.5 discipline. Also having 70 or greater loyalty for 2 estates is going to give you 1 stability, and this is quite easy to do it. First off, what we're going to do is we're going to lower the army and navy maintenance for a little bit, since we're not going to be fighting any wars, at least not at the very start. And do remember to increase your army maintenance at least 2 or 3 months before you start any wars. Also, we're going to go for the Sankin Kotai, which gives us +3 diplo rep. This is very important because our legitimacy is going to go down anyway for a little bit, since we have a regency, and we might as well take advantage of this. If you are struggling with liberty desire, you can also forcibly expel Ronins and get -5 liberty desire. Advisor wise, if you can get a diplo reputation advisor, that would be perfect, but if you cannot get one, or if he is a level 2, which would be slightly too expensive, then you can also go for an improve relations advisor, since we need to improve relations, as I previously mentioned, with all of our vassals here. Also go for a discipline or morale of armies advisor, and a national tax or prestige advisor. You should still be okay with 3 level 1 advisors and still be on the plus economically speaking. I also recommend starting improving relations with the bigger of the daimyos such as Uesugi, Yamana, and Hosokawa before choosing to improve with anybody else. Also, getting the diplo rep +3 is going to pave the way for more allies in the Manchu area such as Donghai. Don't forget to also send a scornful insult to Ming so you get a bit of power projection and you basically just piss them off a little bit. I also recommend that you use your diplo relation slots to get royal marriages with the various daimyos. This will boost your relations with these daimyos, and it will make them less disloyal since they get a -5% liberty desire if they have a royal marriage with you. If you got the diplo relations +3, you should be able to get divert trade from all of your vassals except from Hosokawa, but after we improve relations a little bit more with them, we should get them also available for diversion of trade. This will significantly boost our income. As you can see, we got 4.76 ducats from our vassals diverting trade towards us, and as such we got 42% of the trade node that we start off in. You can also send your 5 starting light ships to protect trade in the Nippon trade area to get a bit more trade power as well. You will be able to start integrating your vassals after 1454, so until that time a lot of them are going to disappear because a lot of them are going to get eaten up by their friends and friendly neighbors, but that is not a big deal. If you really want to stop that from happening, all you need to do is declare war on another nation. So for example, after your regency expires, you can declare war on Ming, or if you really want to, you can proclaim guarantee the nation of Jurchen, which is going to get attacked by Ming, most likely to be made into a tributary. And when that happens, all of your vassals are going to be joining into the war against Ming. The only notable exceptions are going to be the nations that are at war. So if some of your vassals are at war at that point, they're not going to be joining up. Another thing you should be doing is giving the prestige boost from the patronage of the arts, and then just recycling this whenever you get the loyalty. Basically cancel it and give it back. Playing as the shogun is extremely different from playing as any daimyo. You're gonna have a lot of boring time in the early game, since you want to wait until your vassals get a slight bit bigger before you integrate them. Otherwise, integrating one by one all of these vassals is gonna be a pain in the bottom. Whenever you see daimyos that are about to be killed off, such as the nation of Kono here, you should force seppuku on them to get as much mana points as you can from them, and conscript general if they have a good general, since liberty desire is not gonna matter anyway. For that matter, before your regency expires, you should start destroying your daimyo slowly. That means you should start initiating the sword hunt so that they have less manpower and land force limit, and as such are less likely to actually attack or declare war on each other. Also, start cherry picking, see whichever one of your vassals has a great general and recruit that general. You're looking for something that has a lot of shock and siege pips at the start, as those are going to be the most important. Once 1451 strikes, the game is going to get very interesting, as now we have a leader and an heir, and that means that we can start our own wars. As such, we're going to change our policy towards the vassals here. Also, by making them commit seppuku multiple times, you should be quite a bit ahead of time with your mana points, and you should be able to get most of the technologies, if not all of the technologies, whenever they're available here. Renaissance probably will have spawned by this point, and you want to actually trigger Renaissance in your provinces also. Obviously, the easiest one for now would be to trigger it in Kyoto. You also are going to have a lot of cash from all of the trade that you've had, and you should use this cash to improve both your marketplaces and your temples and the provinces that you have right now. Because our daimyos are at peace, we are getting +1 legitimacy as well per month, and because the majority of them are at peace, that means we can also start a few beautiful wars that will help us with keeping them at peace. Before that happens, we want to make sure that the daimyos which we want to start integrating are actually going to be at war, because once we start the war, the daimyos which are at war are not going to join our war, and we can integrate them even though we are at war. Make sure before you declare war on Ming that you actually reinforce your army. That means start recruiting more troops and get the best available general from your daimyos, as well as go ahead and enact the sword hunt, which is going to give you more manpower, as well as it will be giving you a lot more land force limit too. With the extra land force limit and manpower, you should have an easy time of dealing with the Ming. Also, it is absolutely vital that you attack Ming whenever they've managed to do one of their celestial reforms. They need to have 80 mandate to do a celestial reform, and when that happens, their mandate is going to go down, plummet to probably 0. That means they're going to get fire and shock damage received plus 50%. It basically means that Ming is going to be made out of paper. Declare war on Ming and go ahead and use the humiliate rival CB, or you can even use the trade dispute CB if you want to. The goal is actually just get some cash from them and prevent our daimyos from killing each other for the next few years. Once at war with Ming, it is vital that you do not actually attack them. Instead, you let them come to you. That means that you let them transfer their troops from the mainland and you let them land into your lands so that you can wipe them out whenever they get here. Be careful, Ming's navy is quite strong even with the lowered mandate, so make sure that your combined fleets are going to be fighting them together rather than as a single unit. That means make sure you ask all of your units here to attach to your navies, so allow friendly fleets to attach to this fleet, and make sure that you get an admiral as well for your fleet. If you use the humiliation CB, be extremely careful, since if you don't own Beijing, you're going to get -25 war score in this war, and even if you take out all of their fleets, they are going to be rebuilding those fleets super fast, so be extra careful with that. Also, if you attempt to land, use a decoy, land in a different spot first before you actually land in the location where you want to, as they have a massive army, and even though you will probably win against their army since they are going to be quite weak, you're not going to be landing too many troops at the same time, so keep that into consideration. Also, when sieging down Beijing, ensure that you actually have your fleet blockading it so that you get a boost to your siege. After Beijing has fallen, still be super careful with their armies. They will have massive debuffs, but they're not going to be a cakewalk, and they usually have a lot of numbers. So also, what you really want from them in this war is going to be just cash, and the most important thing is that we did lower their mandate by scorching earth wherever we landed and by blockading their sea tiles. This should be a super super fast war, and if you're not confident, or if the Empire of China does not have lowered mandate, then do not actually land your troops there, and you would be better off just using the trade CB rather than the humiliation CB if you don't want to land. Peace them out, and after we've pieced them out, we can bring our troops back home. We should also be halfway through annexing some of our vassals here. I started annexing Yamana, which is one of the bigger ones. Make sure that you annex more than one vassal at the same time if you can, so that you speed up the process. After you've integrated a vassal, do not click the integration is a slow process button, as you can just wait a couple of months before you can click it. In the meanwhile, your other vassals that are being integrated will finish off integration also, so you don't get the malus of -3 Diplo reputation. And we've now integrated all 3 of the vassals. It is safe to click the integration as a slow process, as it doesn't really matter anymore. You're also going to get the troops, so make sure that you don't have too many troops and as such pay for being over the force limit. After you've gotten the new provinces from your vassals, remember to make them full states, and afterwards set the protect trade edict in these provinces to increase the amount of trade power that we have overall in the Nippon trade node. At the same time, use your second trader. At this point, you should be able to reach the Jiren trade node, and remember to set them to transfer trade power towards the Nippon trade area. And if you do have some light ships, remember to set them from the Nippon to the Jiren trade area to protect trade. As such, we increase our trade power here, and it means that we're going to transfer more money into the Nippon trade node. If you do get the fort in Echu, I recommend disbanding this fort, as it is not a good fort. It is a grasslands fort, and it is quite easy to take. You also should be able to do the expand the Koka as well as the win political favor missions. This means that we can go to war now outside of our provinces. But before we do this war, we are going to have to integrate a couple more of our daimyos. Whichever is going to be available, go for that. And as daimyos stop being at war, and once you have the relations with them, start integrating them. You want to have at least half of Japan before you go to war with your neighbors here. Another important thing to take into account is that after you've integrated a daimyo and after you've made it a full state, you also need to lower the autonomy and the newly added provinces, as a lot of the times these provinces are going to come with quite a bit of autonomy, and the higher the autonomy, the less income, manpower, and everything else that you get from these provinces. In fact, I would also recommend that you set the edict centralization effort just for a couple of years, so that you actually lower the autonomy of these provinces to make the most out of them. And only after you've lowered the autonomy, you should put the protect trade edict. The only exception to this would be the provinces where you have a center of trade. In those provinces, do keep the protect trade edict, as even with 50% autonomy, it is going to help quite a bit. Also remember to upgrade your centers of trade, and if you can and you can afford it, also make at least one level 3 center of trade where you can start spawning in the Renaissance if you haven't started already doing it in Kyoto, as it probably will be cheaper in provinces such as Suo as well as Musashi here, and even in Hosokawa. Remember, before you do use your points to encourage development, as that is going to lower the cost of deving it up. In my case, I am going to start deving up Suo here, so I've set the encourage development edict, and I don't have prosperity yet, which would also give me a -10%. With Renaissance fully attained in the province of Suo, I can actually embrace it now, so it's going to be a lot cheaper getting these techs. Instead of 660, it's 550. Whenever you do the mission Pacify the North, it really depends whoever owns these provinces, and even if you were the one who turned them to Shinto, it is the owner of the provinces that is going to get the new province here. This is not bad, since if you're integrating them anyway, it's better if they core the province rather than you waste your points to core it. You're also going to get permanent claims on these provinces as well as on Sakhalin. When integrating the last of your daimyos in Japan, it's going to be a slight bit of an issue, as even if you have 200 relations and you've done everything you can, including great power, influence, and gift, you are going to have a massive debuff with them because you've annexed other vassals around. So be careful with that. Try and wait until vassals get big enough before you integrate them. Otherwise, you might end up with 2 or 3 vassals who are going to stick around for quite a while, as they will be pissed. You also should be able to form Japan after you've got a percentage of the cities in mainland Japan. I don't recommend you do that, as after you click this button, you are going to lose cores on all your daimyos, and all the daimyos are going to stop being daimyos, as well as you're going to lose the shogunate government reform. Even before you finish integrating all of the vassals, as you have a majority of Japan, it is time to start attacking other nations, and one of your most important target is going to be right next to you. Wait until Ming doesn't join. A lot of the times they are going to get into debt spirals, or they're going to have issues with manpower and so on, and they might not join. If they do join, however, that's going to be a completely different story. But if they don't, it is time to expand our influence influence. Also quite important is when you have the goods available, give out the monopolies on various goods such as paper, textiles, and livestock, as well as whatever other goods you will be able to give after you've integrated your vassals and you get the goods from them, since it is going to increase your mercantilism, and you want to increase the mercantilism by as much as you can throughout the game. In this war, what you want to go for is basically the eastern coast of the nation as well as all of the south part, so we can do one of our missions here. Don't worry about coalitions, it's going to be just Ming that we need to worry about, and Ming is going to be a cakewalk, let's face it. Make sure that you have your conflicts with Ming whenever their mandate is low, otherwise it's not going to be a cakewalk though. Before you core up everything, remember to lower your war exhaustion if you have the points for it, otherwise just core it up, no point waiting for it. And delete the fort in the south, we don't really need that. We actually don't want any forts that Ming can get to and get any war score from us. After securing your initial holdings in the south part of East Asia, what you want to do next is you want to go for exploration ideas, and you want to start colonizing the province of Karafuto, as you have a mission to colonize this that will give you some nice bonuses afterwards. And after you've managed to get 5 heavy ships, which I recommend that you do from the start to boost up your navy, you're going to get the next mission that's going to give you claims on all of this area here. So now we can attack pretty much anyone here that we want to attack, as long as they are not a tributary of Ming, or as long as we can deal with Ming, it should not be any sort of issue. For example, we can attack now Jiangsu here, or we can attack Donghai, vassalize them, and afterwards we can feed them back all of the cores they have here that they lost to the other nations around. Still remember, before you unite Japan, it is a tough decision if you're playing as the Shogun, because playing as the Shogun has its benefits. You do lose the Shogunate government type once you unify Japan and you form the nation of Japan. So if you like to do that, I recommend actually starting as a daimyo from the start, as you can unify it much faster than you would otherwise as the Shogun. You should check out the playlist in the description where I have a Oda into Japan by 1475 guide. Colonization wise, after you finished Karafuto here, you should definitely colonize Taiwan, and after you've done Taiwan, you should start colonizing the areas here so you get access to the Filipino islands, and then make your way into Brunei as well as the Sumatran island, so that you can start establishing yourself in the Malaya trade area, which is a super good trade node. At the same time, after you've eaten up Yeren or whatever nation is in the north of Manchuria, you want to use your colonists to block off the Russians from expanding into this side of Siberia. The next war against Ming should be quite easy also. Remember to attack Ming whenever they have low mandate. Basically, if they have low mandate, they are not going to be able to do anything. As a clear example of this, Jiangsu is winning against them in a war. And delete every single fort in Japan that you have except the fort in Mino, as this covers quite a few provinces adjacent to it. Another really good fort to have is a fort in Rikuzen, as Rikuzen also has 6 provinces adjacent to it that it will cover. And another great spot for a fort is the province of Higo. Once you've started exploring the New World, you can also make a few colonies in the north side of the North American continent, as well as make your way towards the gold mines in central Mexico. But I recommend that you focus on the Malaya trade node first and foremost before you prioritize the New World too much, as this trade node has the potential of being extremely rich early on and in the mid of the game. Idea wise, as I previously mentioned, you should go for exploration ideas first, and then depending on whether you want to actually go colonial Japan or not, you should go expansion ideas as a second idea group. If you don't want to go colonial expansion, then you should go for economic ideas together with quantity ideas to boost up both your army as well as your economy. And later down the line, you should also go for religious ideas, as you will not have more than 1 missionaries and you don't have the option of becoming defender of the faith anyway. This is going to help you out with spreading your religion, and you also get a permanent CB on all neighboring heathens and heretics of 75% aggressive expansion rather than 100 for taking provinces. Trade ideas is also super good for both Japan and Ashikaga. You can turn the Nippon trade area or the Malayan one depending on whichever you want to make your main trade node, and a very strong node with the trade ideas. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and if you did, don't forget to leave a like, comment, and subscribe, as well as leave the bell button on to get notified whenever I release a new guide. Also want to give a very big shout out to all my patrons and channel members. Thank you so much guys for all the support you've been offering me. If anybody else wants to become a patron or a channel member, then you can check the links in the description. So until the next one, have a great day everybody.